Greetings, friends. The resistance to the medical tyranny has reignited across the world on March 20th. This past Saturday, there were demonstrations all across the Western world, most of the major cities like London, and I don't know about the US, but certainly in the UK and across different cities in Canada like Montreal, Toronto, and of course down at Queen's Park. I was there and we saw about several thousand people. I don't really know how many. I mean, maybe 4,000, maybe 5,000. So it was one of the high points, not the most we've ever had, but certainly, I mean, compared to a month ago where we had like not even 200 people, it was a big change. And we had public speaking resuming for the first time. Not necessarily that I'm so, enthusiastic about that. And interestingly, the police have been laying off for the past few weeks. And this past Saturday, there were practically no police. Like I saw a handful of police. I saw maybe a few mounted police units, but they didn't do anything. The march was a little, not a little disorganized, because at one point it broke into two groups, but that doesn't really matter because there are just so many people. So the question is, how long will this laxity on the part of the authorities last with regards to these protests? I would give it maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks maximum, and then they'll be arresting us again and harassing us again. So there's a bit of an ebb and flow here. It goes up and down. Of course, we keep hearing about these new variant strains, which are going to cause a big problem, but they're just going to be used as justification for a third lockdown. Although I think we're still in lockdown right now. I'm kind of confused as to what the situation is. I don't really care. It's not really important, but there has been some loosening of restrictions, but obviously not fully. You can't eat in a restaurant, for example. You're still not allowed to do that. So the question is obviously, I don't think this is really accomplishing anything. I like it. I like the protests. I go out to them. It's a good way to network and meet people, and you can, that'll be useful for the future. But is it actually ending this medical tyranny? No, probably not. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, it helps wake up the normies, I guess. It helps, keep our movement alive. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's not necessarily going to change everything either. What we need is businesses to reopen. And some small business owners, one guy, he heard me say that, and he said, well, I'm a small business owner, and he has a tanning salon in the beaches. That's a pretty liberal neighborhood, so he said he had a lot of difficulty trying to open, and then he can't rely on his own clients, because some of them will rat him out if he opens up. And he says that they get paid by the government to, if they're closed down, they pay most of their rent. Not all of it, but most of the rent is covered by the government. So he was saying it's nuanced, it's difficult for the business owners, and I can understand. I do sympathize. However, at the end of the day, they're still going along with what the government is making them do, right? They're taking the rent assistance money. They're taking that, and not blaming them for that. But I mean, how do you think this is going to end? It's not going to end well, because you have to stand up and open. I talked about the Adamson BBQ previously. That opened up back in the fall, and then it was persecuted, and it's just really shameful how everyone refers to what happened at the Adamson BBQ as just a really bad incident, because Adamson has been struggling to fight the system legally, and he's incurred a lot of fines. His business has suffered. So even business owners themselves look to Adamson as a bad example. Like, that guy really messed up. That guy screwed up. And I mean, maybe, but I mean, it's just such a pathetic, sad state of affairs that man standing up against the system, rather than being this symbolic sacrifice, has come to be viewed as just, oh, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be me. And like the small business owner that was talking to me, he was saying, like, if any business owner sticks up their head, if they stand up, then they just get cut down by the system, and that's true. So what I would say is this just illustrates the problem of, partly it shows how the free market isn't such an ideal situation, because we just get dominated by the big corporations and the small businesses suffer. Secondly, it shows how multiculturalism is a disaster. And why is that? Well, I'm not a left-wing person, but this is a situation where the traditional left-wing approach could have some value, because what would it be? That would be to unite your class, like all the miners or whatever it happened to be in the past. They would unite and they would strike, or they would do whatever in their class interest. But none of that class interest has been subsumed, because all the people are divided amongst culture now. So there's no unity in all these small businesses. They can't act, they can't all open together, in other words. If they all open together, then there's no way they could all be persecuted. But they don't have a unity of culture, so the businesses are not going to open up at the same time. Hasta luego, amigos.